Divine.
Friends, once again we have before us multidimensional meanings in this Holy Scripture, not just a narrative or story or historical fact or symbolism, but so much packed into this that can touch your life right now. Let's begin with the simple fact that we learn here. We hear it 5 times in this section, that Joseph and Mary go through the rituals of the laws of Moses. And that reminds us that the Hebrews, known as the chosen people, had rituals for everything. Not because they needed to follow a set of rules, but because the effort was to be aware of God all the time. That's teaching number 1. We human beings have this Achilles heel, this tragic habit of forgetting. And it was known way back when that you've got to start first thing in the morning to awaken to the reality of God. Or you might make it through the whole day alone, abandoned on your own. So counsel number 1 is, when you get out of bed, make it a ritual, if you will, to be grateful for this day. Sounds like a simple thing. Or you might say, well, there's no reason to be grateful for this day. I've got to do that and that and the other. Just try it. Try it in the name of the Holy. Wake up and begin with gratitude. Ritual is not an obligation, a requirement, a tradition, something you were taught and just follow by rote. It is a method to stay connected with something greater than ourselves. And if we know ourselves at all, we know how quickly we fall off the trail. We forget. We get lost and distracted. And so the Hebrews had all sorts of ways in their clothing, in their eating, in their daily habits to bring back to mind the presence of the Holy. Here's a simple way to do it. If you're one of those working, or if you have a place in your house where you go during the day, perhaps to check your email, put something beautiful there. Something that when you look at it, you remember a greater reality than yourself, than your trouble. It works. It's always worked. It's for those who know they must create that connection and hold on to it. It is so important. So important that the Christ, the Anointed Himself, observed these rituals in order that His humanity remain connected. This ritual today, is for the purpose of being closer to the Holy. For the hope that each of you in your own way will taste something, somehow, that will bring you joy, that will give you courage and hope. Don't sleepwalk through this. What's the point? You might as well stay in bed. But if you want some real spiritual health, some empowerment to become all that you are called to be, use this precious time as a living ritual to connect with Spirit. Who knows what seed can be planted in your mind and your heart? Nothing that I plan, just what God is giving to you, because you have made the effort to get up out of bed in the cold, to not worry about the ice too much, and to risk being here today. For a great purpose, because God is at hand. A miracle can be yours today. God in the ordinary. We have forgotten that in the simplest things of life is the divine. We have lost touch with those great rituals that help keep us focused, keep us aware. We are always in need of those reminders. And so in this story, we have Joseph and Mary traveling 60 miles from Nazareth to come to the temple. And we discover that in the temple is this old holy man. You have a lovely mystic image, Simeon, the fruit of the holy people, who was waiting, we're told, for the consolation of Israel. Code words, consolation, for the appearance of the Anointed One, for the promises of the prophets that someday there would be a more intimate connection between the human being, between you and me and the Holy. He trusted his intuition. He was directed by Spirit, and we find here he is guided by Spirit. And that is a teaching. And I counsel each of you, however rational you are, however full of doubts you might be or uncertain of your theology, trust those deep intuitions, because Spirit is always trying to communicate with us. We are designed for that purpose. We are given examples of other human beings, not more special than we are, just perhaps listening a bit more, risking a bit more to have faith, more patient in their waiting. And so you, whoever you are, who might be in need of hearing from Spirit, for whatever reason, learn from this here today. Be patient in faith. Keep listening. Because one day, in one special moment, you will hear. You will know in some mysterious way what you must do, which way you must go. So guided by the Spirit, this old man so full of faith who held on to life because he knew that the promises would be fulfilled for him. He trusted God. He trusted the unknown. One day he's guided to the temple, this vast arena of 3 football fields long. He knows that today is the day. And he hurries through the temple, and there's a young couple all dusty from their long walk, and a baby, just another baby. He knows in a way that only your deepest spirit can know. This is the one he's been waiting for. So never give up hope. Never give up that God will come to you, communicate to you, lead you in some way if your heart is hungry for it. Know that this story is not once upon a time, but is a paradigm, a metaphor for all who live sensitive to the reality of Spirit communicating with us. And so he comes up to this young couple and he takes their baby. Imagine a stranger taking the baby. And he bursts out in a moment of ecstasy and says, Master, now you are dismissing your servant. It's called the nunc dimittis. Now let us meet upon. Said by all faithful at a time of passion, my eyes have seen your salvation. May each one here have the joy and the bliss of saying that. Not just at the time of crossing the threshold, but even now, your spiritual eyes can see that salvation, that presence of God acting in the world, guiding, carrying, protecting, inspiring. May you be one who says, my eyes have seen your salvation. Even if your physical eyes can't see it, your heart can see it. Stay sensitive to that, because to reach that height of knowing is a liberation from all the sufferings and chaos of this world. And this is part of that salvation, of that healing that is offered to us through the appearance of the Christ. How silly Christmas would be if it did not leave us with that kind of possibility that carries you through life. Eyes have seen your salvation. And then he bursts out some more, because when you are filled with Spirit and understanding, you no longer are in any box. This good Jew speaks of a light for the revelation to all people. That's not what their teaching said. It was supposed to be for the Jews. He knows now, in that explosion of understanding and wisdom, all people. For us today, what a vision, what a glorious awakening to the goodness of God. The same kind of awakening you can have in your own way if you wait and listen and let yourself be guided by Spirit. And the old wise man blesses them and then says some very strange things. Here in the midst of this light and color and joy that's left over of Christmas. It says this child is destined for the falling and rising of many, to be a sign that will be opposed. We need to understand this. We need to understand the other side of Christmas. We can celebrate the delight of incarnation of God, Emmanuel, among us. We can have that faith. Can we have that faith when we realize that to hold on to that truth, to know that we've been revealed how we are to live, that it's going to cost us, that what we decide in relation to what Christ revealed will be our rising or our falling, that this expression of God's goodness, unconditional, this compassion, this purity, is a sign that will be opposed by religious people, always down through history. What a strange and bizarre paradox. So we must be on alert that we not oppose that, because every time we do so, every time we oppose that which is good and true and beautiful, every time we judge harshly, turn our backs on others, Christ is crucified once again. The incarnation is not just good news, it is the news that requires that we make a choice. Will we live in that light, or will we turn away from it? There is no neutral ground. You cannot abstain. Either we recognize in this revelation how we are to live, how we are to treat each other, how we are to recognize the sacred in all people, or we are to fall in outer darkness, turn away from it. It's all or nothing. We've reduced Christmas to something so superficial, it's easy to celebrate it and move on. But this is reminding us that it is a turning point every year. Once again, will we oppose that sign of goodness in how we behave with each other, with our loved ones, with our neighbors, how we will accept life itself? Do you realize that this idea of the babe in the manger rejected, no room at the inn, is still alive in our time now? We can still say no thank you and go on our way. That's the easy. Or we can recognize what we are called to be and what the true meaning of this time of year is, to not oppose the good and the beautiful. And he goes on to prophesy that the inner thoughts of many will be revealed. You know, we human beings can be great actors. We can easily seem to be nice and happy Christians, happy spiritual people. Spirit sees within. We cannot hide from the holy. We are revealed in the light of Christ's presence in the world. And therefore, let us not be afraid of that. Let's be on the side of that which doesn't oppose goodness, that doesn't act against it, that doesn't fall into that void of godlessness that makes life such misery. Don't you know we're talking about the secret of life? Not generically, but every day. This afternoon, will Christ be a sign that is opposed in your life this afternoon? Something deep within will know, because you've been told now what the teaching is. Will we follow that sign and live by it and make the world a better place in the most ordinary ways, or not? And then he goes on to say, and a sword will pierce your soul too. What kind of good news is that? You know, good news, as I've told you before, euangelion means victory in battle. For it is a spiritual battle waged within. And we are told that even in the blessing of bearing the Christ, Christ bearer, she's called. Christ bearer, what Christians were called in ancient times. For all Christ bearers, for all who seek to love, they will be pierced by a sword. Not because God wants you to suffer. Don't fall for that bad theology. But because in this world, it's impossible for that not to happen. So accept in advance the fact that living as Christ would have us live will mean pain, will mean injustice, will mean attack. And be ready for it. And understand that even in that terrible reality, the victory belongs to the Lord. Darkness cannot overcome the light. Just know, as the child says later, if they persecuted me, they will persecute you. That's the world we live in. But be prepared to be strong in spirit, to know that this Christmas here is not some light holiday. It is power to become that kind of light and unconditional love in a world that rejects it still, in which there's no room in the inn. Just like for dear Mary, in her glory and ecstasy of surrender to God, will be standing at the foot of the cross. But then will come resurrection. So friends, be prepared in this time of joy to know that it's a transcendent joy that has the power to carry you beyond all the sufferings of this world, which are inevitable. Because God will be with you. God will carry you through. How many times are we told, those who endure to the end will be delivered? That's a strange Christmas message. It doesn't have all the sweet, lovey-dovey, nostalgic stuff attached to it, but it's the real thing. The key to life. Be prepared. Accept the necessity to transcend your own comfort and need, to recognize that you will be misunderstood as he was, and to go forward in the name of God. Find true life, path created by the Anointed One. True story. Christmas.